welcome to Cult Macabre, a phantasmagoric guide to pop culture's dark side. I'm Lee.
I'm Richie.
And today we are talking about the video game Until Dawn, released in August 2015 for the PlayStation 4.
Until Dawn was actually planned as a first-person game for the PS3, but that got dropped whenever they were like, hey, PS4, because as we know, the PS4 was, a better console in many ways. And also, I believe that this was the first video game they were fully intent on using the full capacity of that console for.
Yeah, which I'm so glad that they held out and released it for the 4 instead of the 3. I was never a fan of the motion controller, the PlayStation Move, but the PlayStation 4 controller, that was such an excellent use of its capabilities, and it was just seamless with the game, in my opinion. So I'm very glad they held out for that.
Yeah, so am I. And another thing about this video game that drew me in initially was whenever I first heard about it, I was like, okay, what's the catch here? All I saw was like a trailer, and then I was like, okay, well, there's no gameplay. It was just like, oh, this game is happening. And then when I found out what the gameplay was going to be like, I was like, okay, I'm fucking so in, because it's a movie, basically. Like this is pretty much just a horror movie, but in a video game form, with full scans of the actors doing their own acting and their voices rather than just providing a voice for a random character, in the game. And also the fact that it was, I hadn't played anything like this up until the point that this game had come out. Like every choice you make in this game affects the outcome or affects a specific character's demise or survival.
In which all of your characters have the capacity to die at any series of decisions that you make along the way.
Yep, because you can finish the game perfectly with every character surviving in some form or fashion, or you can finish the game with fucking nobody living. So the game was announced at Gamescom 2012 and didn't come out until August 2015, which a game like this, I'm not shocked. A game like this takes years of development and years of just finesse.
They also were working on the musical score back in even 2011, before it was announced. They had a lot of these bits of it already designed for the game.
Yeah, and that would be one Jason Graves, who was the composer for this video game, and he's done a shitload in the gaming industry. He's done Dead Space, Alpha Protocol, Tomb Raider, Evolve, Dungeon Siege. I mean, you name it, he's probably worked on it.
Really all over the place for sure, yeah. And we do see a lot of inspiration for this game.
Or as Tenacious D would say, inspirado.
Yeah, movies such as Evil Dead 2, Poltergeist, games such as Heavy Rain, Resident Evil, Silent Hill. I really appreciate the bits of this game that build tension with not necessarily anything in particular happening. You're just listening to the music and you have very dynamic lighting that you're working with. I love the use of shadows for storytelling in this. They do an absolute excellent job with its development.
How much did you actually have to adjust your screen? Because you know how they tell you at the beginning of a video game, they're like, hey, adjust your screen to this so that you get the full potential. I'm one of those motherfuckers that always brightens it a little more because I'm like, dude, I am blind as fuck and I can't see shit, okay?
Normally, I would agree with you. There are only 2 games I've ever played that I've had to adjust brightness on. One of them is any Souls game. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring. I've cranked the brightness up just a bit.
You died, bro.
For real, a lot. The other one being Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Dude, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. That, I think, is one of the... If you watch any gamer on YouTube, that's the video game you probably got into that specific Let's Player with.
That's your penultimate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because if you watch Jacksepticeye or Markiplier, I think PewDiePie even fucking played it. But when I hear Let's Players, those are the top 3 guys that I think of, even though I know that there's a ton out there that a lot of people would be like, I don't know who those 3 are, but I know who these guys are. And sure, but Until Dawn was another one of the titles that a lot of Let's Players jumped in on.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually didn't buy the game until I saw a lot of these guys no, this is a good game. You should check it out. I was going to buy it anyway, but it was oh, nope, I'm 100% sold.
I had the advantage of working at a GameStop at the time that this game was released. So I had immediate access to it, and they had a system at the time where people in my position could borrow copies of games from the store for a week and bring them back. And let me tell you, I tried very hard to get through that game within the 3 days I was allotted to have it because it was a brand new title. And I did not get that far. I only got as far as Mike going to the sanatorium and had to return it. But I massively, massively enjoyed it.
Yeah, because the hours that you can put into this game if you take the time to explore.
I'm the type of person who has to check out every little nook and cranny where I feel like I've missed something immediately. And I always get so angry when I go back and check like achievements or trophies and find that I have missed something small somewhere along the way.
That's like the first time that I ever had an experience where I felt like I needed to 100% everything was the Arkham series for Batman because of all the Riddler trophies.
Yeah.
And then whenever that series progressed and they started adding more shit, I was like, fuck.
God damn it.
It was really bad.
And I will say one of the developmental choices about this game is there aren't necessarily like save states. Like if a character dies or you make a decision you don't like, you cannot just reload your save and play again from that point. Not unless you're very quick about like turning your PlayStation off and back on. If a character dies or you want to change your choices, you have to completely restart your game and play it all over. And that was a very specific choice that they made for the creation of this.
And speaking of the characters, let's run through the actors. So we have Rami Malek, who most recently famously played Freddie Mercury, which, aside from that, Rami Malek's just a fucking excellent actor anyway.
Agreed.
Hayden Panettiere, Megan Martin, Brett Dalton, Jordan Fisher, Nicole Sakura, and my favorite of the entire fucking game, Peter Stormare, who, in both Lee and I's opinion, plays the ultimate Lucifer in Constantine.
One of my favorite characters and favorite Lucifer renditions of like all time. I thought he's just an excellent actor altogether. And he suits this role, this narration in between game scenes so perfectly well.
And at first, when you see the character, you don't realize that he's actually there for a character within the game, because they almost frame it as, like you said, the narrator, but also asking you, the player, hey, what frightens you more out of these two pictures? He's kind of like giving, it's not a Rorschach test, but he's giving you the equivalent of that in certain scenes. He's like, what's more frightening, this or that? What would you choose, this or this? And he kind of like just looks at you, and kind of condescending at a couple of points where he's just like, well, okay. Just like taking his little fucking notes.
Yeah, there's definitely a very, like, a big tonal shift anytime that he is on screen for the game. Not even just him as a character, but the entire environment that his character is in changes between every cutscene, every so often, where it cuts back to him between chapters. And you see this, like, this degradation of his office. It changes locations depending on Josh's location in the game. I just loved how well done that was overall.
It also changes as Josh's mental state changes, because spoilers abound, obviously. If you've never played this game, don't listen to this any further, but we're assuming you have, considering this game has been out for almost a decade. So with that being said, the location of that changes when Josh's mental state deteriorates to a point where you realize, okay, fuck, he's got something wrong with him.
Yeah, something is definitely going on. And they do an excellent job building up to that throughout the entire plot, honestly.
So the way the gameplay is, like we've mentioned, it's like cutscenes in third-person perspective. It's a linear environment, and as we were saying about kind of doing the 100% thing with, completion of the game, there's a thing that they do in here called totems, where it's you collect them, and it's almost like precognition of what's gonna happen in the game.
Yeah, I think it covers different aspects of that. Like, they have certain sections and types of totems, but all these totems represent points in the story where you can essentially make a choice that impacts the story. And they all focus around all the different characters that are playable.
Yeah, because I know they have there's like a death totem and, other shit like that.
Right. And I believe the remake even added a new type of totem called hunger totems, as well as a totem mini game that was apparently not very well received either. But yeah, we'll talk about the remake.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it wasn't until here recently that I knew that a remake had happened of this game. And I was like, wait, why? But then, again, we'll get into the movie adaptation that's going to be happening, which if you listen to the last episode, we briefly mentioned that was a thing, but we'll get a little more into that as the episode progresses. So the game itself is divided into 10 chapters, and there's like the intermission with Dr. Hill, which is Peter Stormare, in between each chapter. But the story is about 8 people that are surviving at a place called Blackwood Mountain. And the setup is that they're doing a party for the character of Hannah and her twin sister, Beth. This is kind of like our introduction to literally everybody. You get the feeling that Rami Malek's character, he's passed out, maybe drunk.
That's what I would assume.
Josh is Rami Malek. It's Hannah and Beth's brother. And then you have Sam, who's played by Hayden Panettiere. Then you have Chris, who's played by Noah Fleiss. And you have his love interest, who is Ashley, played by Galadriel Steinman. Then you have Emily and Matt, who are played by Nicole Sakura and Jordan Fisher. Then you have Mike, who's played by Brett Dalton. And then you have Jessica, who's played by Megan Martin. So you have all these characters, right? And they are all very typical, like freshly in the middle of or out of college.
I want to say in the middle of, because I think Mike is wearing like his, what is that? A
Letterman jacket.
Letterman jacket. Thank you. And I believe they do talk about school, or either that or it's written in Hannah's diary. I can't quite remember.
Right. But basically the setup is that they're playing a prank on Hannah where she has the hots for Mike.
And Mike is dating Emily at this point in the story.
Right. So if I'm not mistaken, that is exactly who initiates this entire fucking prank.
Yeah, let me just talk about the characterization for a minute. Every character is extremely well written, and they do give you brief descriptions about the character's personality traits when you do get to play them. They make you hate Emily throughout the entire fucking game. She is queen bitch, hands down.
For me, at least, Emily is the equivalent of Skylar White in Breaking Bad, where like it doesn't matter. And I think the equivalence stops here is where like no matter what, you hate this bitch.
I think of her as a mean girl.
She really is a mean girl.
She is a mean girl.
She's a bitch.
But we do see them play this prank on Hannah where they fake a note written by Mike to get Hannah's attention, saying something along the lines of, "Oh, I have the hots for you. Come make out with me upstairs at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, come meet me in the bedroom," and all this other bullshit.
And we see, at least in the remake, they do show extra scenes in the beginning of Hannah prepping herself and writing in her diary, putting on makeup, changing her top, stuff like that. She goes up into the room all gussied up. Everybody, with the exception of Chris and Sam, because they don't take any part in the prank from what I remember, and Mike and Jess are not there. Through this cutscene, they're only there later in the game, but they play this off a prank on her to make her think that Mike has the hots for her while they're all hiding in the room with a video camera to film her reaction. Mike says, "Let's just take it slow," and Hannah's immediate response to that is start unbuttoning her top and take it off. She hears like a giggle under the bed or something, and then the jig is up.
The scene though is kind of accentuated by Mike in a really like comedic moment where this actually isn't really funny, but the motherfucker sits there, he just, "Oh, hell yeah." And I'm just like,
bitch is rubbing his hands together like, "Ooh, I'm getting some."
And you're just kind of sitting like, "Mike, you're a fucking dick."
I kind of love Mike though. I think Mike is a good character.
Yeah. You start out not really liking him for this reason, but also like character development, you wind up actually kind of giving a shit for Mike.
Mike, I believe, gets the most playtime out of all the characters that you have access to. They really want him to feel like a hero, and I think he does a very good job of that throughout. I mean, depending on your decisions, of course.
Sure.
But I do believe they set him up for that, to be like the protective leader type of the group.
Right. The prank goes not as planned, because like right around the time that it's revealed that it's a prank, because everybody starts popping out from underneath the bed, out from under the closets, they're putting this on camera. Like, you know, we assume by the way these people are, and at the time that this game had come out, you assume, oh, we're going to load this onto the internet, we're going to make a fucking laughing stock out of you. And Sam, who is played by Hannah Panettiere, rolls in, and she's just like trying to catch her like before it happens, because she kind of feels like, I don't know if that was directly related to the player that she's involved in the decision making of doing this prank, but you can tell like she's like, no, we fucking shouldn't do this. And she's too little too late. Hannah gets really upset. She doesn't catch her in time. Hannah hauls ass into the woods, and her twin sister Beth goes after her. And this is kind of where the setup of where the rest of this game is going to go, because they get pursued by this dude with a fucking huge flamethrower.
Wearing like a mask and winter getup. It's very intimidating.
Yeah. Well, they get to the edge of a cliff and they slip and fall off this motherfucker, where there is a quick time decision, or it's not even a quick time decision. You have to make a choice here. I think it's just like a regular choice, where they're hanging off the cliff and the sisters are bound by, they're holding each other's hand, and one is like grasping the cliff, and you can either drop the sister to save your life, or you can let go and both fall. And it doesn't matter which choice you make because you both fucking fall anyway. Yeah. But dude, the impact is so fucking bad because the sisters fall and holy shit.
That crunch, man, that sticks with you for a hot second.
That Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
Oops, all berries.
Oops, all bones.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the sisters fall and end up, all buried in the fucking snow. And holy shit. That's a way to kick this fucking game off.
Absolutely. And it goes right from there to like a video message that Rami Malek's character Josh sends to this group a whole year later. Beth and Hannah are presumed missing at this point. I don't think anyone wants to believe they're dead or voice that. But they are missing or presumed dead. You do see like missing persons posters for them throughout the game too. And Josh has the idea that he's going to gather up all his friends on the year anniversary of everything that happened and throw a party that they would never forget. I believe he uses the phrase party like porn stars, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, because it's so bad. Like you can tell again, the whole college thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to party like porn stars, man. And it's like, okay, bud. Whatever you say, Mr. Mercury, whatever you say.
Right, for sure.
But like you get that video message, and as that video message is playing, you see Sam traveling up to the lodge. And I think you see the other characters kind of getting ready and like arriving and things like that. And again, it's Sam, Chris, Emily, and Matt. And then Emily's ex-boyfriend, obviously, who is Mike. Mm-hmm. So she's got a new dude, and then he's showing up.
With his new girl, Jess.
Yeah, Jessica. And yeah, so they all get there. And we start seeing kind of the layout, because you didn't get to see the layout in the beginning of this, but now you're getting the layout of the entire lodge because they had to get there by cable car. And you start getting more character development because there's new people introduced. And it's interesting to see how the new characters mingle in with this shit, because you assume these new people did not know the full story, or they know the full story, but they weren't there established when the shit went down. I think this might be one of my only critiques about the game is it's a little difficult when the two new characters that are in here have to kind of like act like they give a shit about the sister's disappearance or whatever, because they're just there.
They care because their partners care for the most part.
Right. And I mean, it's probably a harsh critique on the game, but I get it. Anyway, there's a lot of backstory that gets unfurled about this abandoned sanatorium, which actually ties into a prequel video game that this had like a couple of years after the fact. And that had to do with the sanatorium. And the other reason why this game was a lot of fun is, continuing from our episode covering the Wendigo, the Wendigo is the creature that is very prominent as a centralized piece of the story here.
I would classify the Wendigo as the main antagonist of the plot for sure.
But what's fun is you don't know that. Like if you go into this game blind, you have no fucking clue that that's what this is until it starts to really like kick into gear.
Yeah, I want to touch on that for a second because
touch on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Something I very much appreciate about this game is I feel like it hits up three main aspects throughout the gameplay. It has points where it tries to make you believe that there is like some supernatural ghost shit going down at some point. You have a lot of traditional tropes and cliches that you would find in slasher movies. And then you have the cryptid aspect of it with the Wendigos. I think all of them are melded together beautifully as part of the story. So as far as the plot goes, for the most part, and of course, like we said, this is a nearly 10-year-old game, so we're not really avoiding spoilers at this point, but we do find out that through some exploration, Josh is off his medication at this point in the story and has been for quite some time. This is causing him to have this slow spiral into madness, so to speak. He hallucinates frequently, talks to himself and figures that no one else can see, and takes it upon himself to basically set up traps and enact a slasher film essentially on all of his friends and the people who got there. One of the biggest things we see, and he does this 2 times in particular, he sets up himself with a dummy body and Ashley against a board where they're chained up by their wrists, and there is a saw blade moving horizontally towards them. And as the character Chris, you have to make the decision which one of them are going to get cut by the blade. This is where like major decision making comes into play. I believe no matter what you choose, Josh is the one that gets sawed in half. And there's like a bunch of like fake intestines and blood that comes out. Ashley gets splattered with the blood. It's super traumatizing for her. And I will say her voice actress does an amazing job of carrying that trauma in her voice. She always sounds super stressed out, and it really kind of adds to the suspense of everything. If you choose to save Ashley, Ashley makes her affections to you much more clear because of the near-death experience, and this leads into additional scenes where both characters end up like confessing their love for each other depending on the dialogue decisions that you make. This has benefits much later in the game that can help you avoid Chris's death, as a matter of fact, at a couple different storyline choices. If you choose to save Josh, Ashley gets very despondent and upset with you. And I believe later on, she chooses not to open a door as Chris is trying to run for safety, which I'm fairly certain causes him to get caught and killed by a Wendigo at that point. So you do have to pay attention to people's character traits as well. Anytime a character pops up on the screen for you to play for the first time, it gives you a short list of like characteristics that person has, and you have access to a menu that shows you how honest, funny, romantic, charitable that a person is. It's like a whole diagram that you follow.
Yeah, and if you follow that, you actually can figure out how to play the game, because how you make certain decisions with certain characters based upon their personality traits massively carries implications for the rest of the game.
The totems and the individual characteristics of those characters are what is supposed to influence your choices to make the right decisions for their survival. So the second time we get to see a major plot choice where you're literally choosing between characters to live is where you see Chris and Ashley chained to chairs with a giant saw blade over their heads, I believe.
Is that the one where they have like the pistol laying on the table and stuff?
Yes, exactly. And you hear a voiceover by Josh, who's the maniac. I think they call him the psycho. Was that the name that they used for him?
Oh yeah, whenever he just appears with the big mask and shit.
Yeah, the big
like whenever you look at the
looks like he's part of Slipknot. Tell me I'm wrong.
If Slipknot and Sleep Token had like a fuck child, that would be Psycho from Rami Malek.
But he does a voiceover basically telling Chris that Chris has to make a decision. He can either use the gun and shoot Ashley and save himself, or he can shoot himself and save Ashley. And the saw blade is just lowering towards them during this time. After you make your decision, which I will point out, sometimes when you are given a time decision or a choice between doing things, oftentimes not doing something is the quote right decision.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I love about this game is whenever you are given the choice that involves the injury of an animal, don't injure the fucking animal. Just don't hurt animals, man. It literally serves no purpose in the game for you to injure them.
If I could quote Rush for 1 second.
Absolutely.
If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Yes, there you go. That's perfect. Very fitting. In a lot of the Let's Plays that I've watched, most people do choose to just not shoot anybody like in that moment. No matter what you do, no one dies in that situation, because at that point other people show up into the room after escaping their various maze that they were trapped in, because Josh like pulled them all and kidnapped them into different areas and whatnot. I think Sam was in a towel for the majority of her kidnapping.
I just want to know how the fuck most of these characters, including Sam in a towel for the duration of the fucking back half of this game, didn't get fucking hypothermia and die.
I made that comment so many times, and you know what? That towel got some gorilla grip to be staying on her the way that it did.
I feel like that towel was not a towel that was at this lodge. I very much feel like it came from the Plaza Hotel in New York City. New York's most exciting hotel experience.
Kevin McAllister going to be coming for that towel.
I'm telling you.
You know, the way that house is set up with all of its booby trap bullshit would be perfect for Kevin.
Booby trap bullshit is a funny fucking term.
New favorite phrase. It's at this time that we get the reveal that Josh is the psychomaniac masked man. And then we really start to see just how far down in his psychosis he has sunk. And everybody else is like, whoa, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? This was going way too far. And Josh goes on to tell them that basically this whole setup was revenge for what they did to his sisters, you know, a year previous, and that he was going to post all this footage of them online, making them confess their secrets in these extreme moments of stress, and the partial nudity from Sam fresh out of the bathtub, and how much gore and blood he put in there, because he's filming all of them individually in every area that he hid them in. So he has all this stuff on them, and he's like, I'm going to post it online. It's going to get 1 million hits. It's going to be, you guys are going to be famous. You'll be thanking me.
It's going to be like a movie and all this other shit. Like,
yep, exactly.
It's like we pointed out at the very beginning, this is the time when, hey, we're going to post shit online and get fucking clout and views and all this other shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's internet famous, baby.
And mostly up until this point, the only like clear view we get of a Wendigo in the story is when one yoinks Jess straight out of a fucking window, like fucking Marge in
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, right at the end. It's literally exactly the same. It's fucking hysterical. And there's just a slow buildup. Like in certain scenes, like when Mike is walking through the sanitarium, you see like a shadow crawl up a wall through a barred window, and you get these like little hints. Your first view of the Wendigo in full. I absolutely love the design of the Wendigos.
That's what I was going to get at, actually. I am happy they chose to go with the design they went with, because at one point when you see a couple of our characters on a hilltop or a cliff, if you will, multiple deer. And this is another one of those like shoot the animal or hurt the animal moments.
It's like scare them away or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that was a little nod to the Wendigo being portrayed as like an antlered creature.
Mm-hmm.
But we went with the full-blown humanoid creature for that one.
And they look horrific. Like they have rows of jagged, broken teeth. Their skin is perfectly taut. Their eyes are all clouded and milky. And the whole thing is they can see, but it's like movement vision, like they're fucking T-Rex.
It's like the Predator.
Yes, exactly. So they can only see you when you're moving. And it is revealed that they do have a sense of hearing, because later on in the game, Sam yells at one to distract it and save Mike. And it like zooms over to exactly where she is with its head right next to her. And this parts like this is where the game's galvanic skin response that they use to measure your psychological and physiological responses via the controller comes into use. You get a little prompt that pops up and it says, don't move.
Yeah, and basically it's the shape of, like, if you look at a PlayStation 5 controller or a PlayStation 4 controller, there is a sensor on the front that's like got this like bowl-shaped design, and that's what pops on the screen. And if you fuck up and move that shit too much, you done fucked up, kid.
Yeah, you've probably killed Sam or Mike or whoever the fuck you are trying to hold still. I think most of the time it's Sam, but you do get that with Jess and Matt later on in the game as well. Excellent use of the controller's capabilities. I absolutely love that. And I definitely killed a character by moving on accident because I'm a jumpy motherfucker.
I'm pretty fucking sure I got all the way through and murked Sam at the end by accident, because I had a moment where I say accident, I'm going to blame my cat because that motherfucker bumped, because I used to just set the controller down on the table flat so that it wouldn't move. And that little motherfucker bumped it with his tail slightly. She got killed. And I was like, God damn it, Loki.
Loki's going to come in here, tilt his head at you and be like, well, hello, motherfucker. I heard you was talking shit.
No, he's going to go, meow.
Translation, you was talking shit.
I heard you was talking shit. Anyway, yeah, so I have definitely fucked up and murdered a character on here by a complete goddamn mistake. But I love that part of the gameplay. It's another element that I hadn't experienced before until this was a thing. One thing I wanted to point out about the Wendigo was, like, if you knew who the Wendigo was before they became a Wendigo, they left features of that person's face buried in the design.
Yes. So let me touch on a point of the story here. Throughout the gameplay, you learn that the Wendigo spirit, if you will, is trapped underneath that mountain until 1952, when a group of miners go down in the mountain and start excavating it, and they kind of set it free. That group of miners, I want to say there's like 15 of them or something. There is a giant cave-in, and by the way, their supervisors knew that it was unsafe for them to be digging down there. If you do some exploring, you do find that information out. These guys get trapped down there, and over the course of a month or so, these guys are starving. They're freezing to death. They turn towards cannibalism in order to survive. And if you're familiar with Wendigo lore, or perhaps if you listen to our last episode about the Wendigo, that is one of the main ways that you become a Wendigo, is by resorting to cannibalism. These guys eat each other alive. And every person that becomes a Wendigo, even the miners, you see some with patches of gray beard still sticking out of their fucked up skin, bits of overall clothing still clinging to their bodies. I believe Mike points out seeing a picture of the miners, and one of them has a very particular scar. And a Wendigo he ran into had that scar.
Do you want to know how he got those scars? The other aspect of the Wendigo lore that I did enjoy, which you just pointed out about how the miners cannibalized each other, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You find out the fate of Hannah and Beth, where Beth was buried at one point because she's the one that actually died.
Yeah, Hannah survived that fall, which props to her on that period.
She probably landed on her sister. Her sister probably took the fucking brunt of that, all around, took the rock to the back, and then took the impact of Hannah's fat ass right on top of her. Because she got a donk.
She got a donk.
She fucking, when she landed, it was like Hulk Hogan dropping the leg on Andre the Giant.
Jesus Christ.
At WrestleMania 3. Wrestling reference there for you motherfuckers. But the story, you find out that Hannah I'm getting fucking morbid here. I don't give a shit. Hannah digs Beth's body back up out of the fucking ground and eats her slowly, piece by piece. And it's just oh shit.
Literally only leaves her head completely unscathed, unmarked, because you do come across Beth's frozen, desiccated head on top of a makeshift body that Hannah created to look like her.
Yes.
It's really sad when you find Hannah's diary towards the end of the game.
I thought you said find Hannah's diarrhea. Yeah, hide Hannah's diarrhea towards the end of the game, and she has shat out the bones of her twin sister.
Oh my God. She contracted dysentery.
You have died of dissing Terry. I don't know who Terry is, but you dissed him.
He's pissed.
Pissin' Terry.
We do see in this diary that Hannah tries to keep track. I want to say it's 33 days roughly that she is notating. She talks about how she's hungry, she's cold, she can't find a way out, etc., etc. I believe the last page of the diary literally just says hungry in this fucked up weird scroll. Hangry. She hangry. But yeah, she literally dug up her sister's body and ate it and had to live with that. And it transformed her into a Wendigo, unfortunately. The other thing about the Wendigo lore in this game is I'm going to call him Mr. Plot Device. The quote stranger with the flamethrower that's only there to progress the story in certain ways and give them information about the Wendigo. He does serve his purpose, though.
Mr. Plot Device. I can't believe you fucking called this motherfucker Mr. Plot Device.
Am I wrong?
No, but I feel dude, he was there. He was hey, he could have just been hey, I'm sorry, I scared your sisters.
I mean, he basically does say that.
Right, but it's just dude.
Turns out he was actually chasing the ultimate Wendigo. And this particular Wendigo spirit does have a name that he calls him by. I can't quite remember it in this moment, but I know it starts with an M. That's good enough, right?
Motherfucker.
Marsha.
I was chasing the Wendigo motherfucker Marsha all over this barren fucking wasteland.
He was chasing this particular spirit to the edge of the cliff where he ran into Beth and Hannah, and they got startled by seeing him and fell. He mentions in his little diary that he's kept a couple of key points. One, getting bitten by a Wendigo does not turn you into a Wendigo, and this is important because Emily gets bitten. And as Mike, you get the choice of whether or not you're going to shoot her in the fucking head when you find out she's been bitten. Because at that point, apparently, they're under the assumption that that could be what turns you.
All I'm going to say is that I'd have shot her ass on principle.
Dude, I'm telling you. With the limited knowledge you have at that moment, I would not be sorry to see her go.
Nope.
Fuck you, bitch. Eat lead, motherfucker.
Fuck you, bitch.
But you also find out that the Wendigos are weak to fire. They can't really be killed by like shotguns or knives. You literally have to cook their armored skin off because their skin hardens.
Which goes all the way back to our fucking episode on this thing where you have to extinguish them with fire because of their icy cold hearts.
Yes, beings of ice. But he recommends that you do not kill these beasts, even though he notates that he has killed 6 of them himself. And the reason you don't want to do this is when they are killed, their spirit, their energy is released back into the winds around the mountain, just looking for someone else to possess. So the idea that he has worked on for years of living in these mountains is that he traps these Wendigos in individual cells in the sanatorium so that they can't go out and hunt.
It's fucking wild.
It is. And I love that scene when you're Mike walking through that area and you're passing all these cells and you literally have a quick time event for almost every Wendigo that you come across. And there's like 10 to 15 of them in there. It's probably like all the miners. I bet you there's 15 of them exactly. You have to avoid them like grabbing you through the bars. There's a couple of them that chase you. And at the beginning of that scene, he grabs like a shotgun and only a handful of shells to shove into his pocket. You absolutely can shoot at these Wendigos through the bars, but you would not want to, because if you waste all of your ammo doing that, you will kill Mike as you try to leave the sanitarium.
Yeah.
So I really love how even the seemingly small things end up greatly affecting the story further down the line.
Right.
That's our butterfly effect, as they call it.
Yeah. And we'll get to wrapping the game up through a series of whatever the fuck you decide to do in this game. Everybody eventually obviously finds out that Josh is behind all of this shit. They find out he's off his rocker, like we mentioned before. And he's been hallucinating his dead sisters and his psychiatrist the whole fucking time. They actually try to save him at one point. Like, they're pissed with Josh, but they actually try to, no, we need to like keep him alive because like we would be no better.
And it was them finding out he didn't kill Jessica.
Right. Because that was the other thing. They couldn't trust him if he, killed Jessica or not. But like, no, she's not even dead,
Surprise.
So yeah, surprise. And anyway, they all go back to the lodge to go to the basement with everybody, but it's actually overrun by several Wendigo and Hannah. And depending on, again, which story you get, which if you get a perfect ending, essentially Mike and Sam have an idea, because while the Wendigo are fighting each other, the gas to the fireplace gets tripped. And Mike has the idea of like, hey, if I remove this light bulb and we flip the switch on it, it'll spark and blow the house up.
That motherfucker actually reaches over with his bare fucking hands and crushes that light bulb like it's fucking nothing.
He probably can't feel it at that point. Like
That's true. He lost his fingers earlier. I forgot about
depending
that.
if you did or not. If you did or did not lose your finger. But what I'm laughing at is, again, this goes all the way back to the conversation that we were having about like, hey, are these guys like, are they okay? Are they having frostbite issues? Are they going to die of hypothermia? How cold are these motherfuckers? How warm is these motherfuckers?
How much adrenaline is running through their bodies?
He probably had adrenaline mixed with no feeling in his fucking hands. He's like, I can crush fucking lead. I'm gonna crush this fucking light bulb. And it was one of those like pussy ass light bulbs, dude. Like, it wasn't even like like when you hang from the ceiling. It was like this little popcorn
slow squeeze.
It was like this little popcorn light bulb. He's just done.
Yep, straight up.
But anyway, they wind up blowing the house to smithereens, if you will.
As well as the remaining Wendigos. And you do see their little spirits, these little red things fly out of the home. So you know that they're still out there.
They be leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to the end of the game where if any of the characters survive it, and this is, excluding Josh, because he got taken away by one of the Wendigos in one of the previous scenes. He got fucking palmed like Shaquille O'Neal palms a basketball, and they just dragged his ass, and he's just like, nah. Anyway, it ends with the credits rolling, and every character in a police station, like, it's the same camera shot of each person, getting them like, hey, no, like, this is what happened. Especially Sam, she's like, you need to go check these mines out. And so in the post credits or like mid credits, like, they actually do go and they find Josh munching on a dude.
It's the stranger. It's Mr. Plot Device.
Yeah.
He's eating the plot now.
Yeah. Josh is eating that motherfucker and he turns into a Wendigo, or he's already transformed into a Wendigo.
Yeah, he's all fucked up.
But you were telling me about the remake ending earlier, which is slightly different.
Yeah, so there are a few things that are different. The story is the same, but the remake adds interactions between the characters that weren't there previously. It's got an extended prologue, like showing Hannah getting ready and stuff like that beforehand. There's new locations for totems, plus the new totem mini game and the new totem type, the hunger totem, and new endings. So we get 2 post-credit scenes involving Josh and Sam.
Yeah, one of the endings is Josh actually like survives the Wendigo, and he's hearing Dr. Hill's voice, basically like saying that he's hoping that he's gonna find redemption or finds redemption. The other one is like set years after the fact.
Yeah, I believe that one takes place with Sam in a mental institution, and it pretty much shows her with like this bleeding scar gash on her arm. She's obviously been like seeking treatment for the traumas that she experienced on the mountain. And I think a stranger walks up in the doorway and it pretty much cuts off at that point. Outside of that, the remake showed us graphical upgrades, a new musical score, third-person over-the-shoulder camera angle, and the new type of totem. It utilized the Unreal Engine 5, which is on the newer side, and it came out on October 4th of 2024. So this was a recent release.
Yeah, and the game itself, not the remake, but the original release of this got fucking excellent reviews almost universally across the board. Like Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10. And I didn't have to like look at reviews to know that I loved this game, and I thought very highly of it myself. Like when I first played this, I don't ever think anything is 5 out of 5 perfect or 10 out of 10 perfect. This was easily a 4.5, 4.75 for me, like out of 5, as far as gameplay, story, because it was fucking innovative at the time that it had come out.
Absolutely. And I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well. My biggest complaint about the original release is its actual controls and gameplay. It kind of controls like dookie butt in certain parts of the game.
Dookie butt.
Dookie butt.
Write that one down, everybody. That's a new insult. If you call somebody something, call them a dookie butt.
Hey, you dookie butt. They might think you're like 8 years old, but it's still effective. It'll catch attention. And frame rate issues. Although I will say the remake also has frame rate issues. So that's kind of like a universal thing between both versions of the game. Funny enough, the remake also had worse reviews than the original.
I was about to say that too. Like fucking the PS5 cut got a 69 out of 100 on Metacritic.
Nice.
I mean, the PC one didn't do much better. It got a 73.
Yeah, I think people were expecting more functionality to be put in the game, and that new totem mini game was not well liked or received. I don't think so.
I think the only thing about the new one that was decent, obviously, is the improved graphics quality, but like everything else was just there. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not like the Shadow of the Colossus remakes that we got.
Oh, such a good game.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, hey, this is a fucking PlayStation 2 game that needs to be upgraded to PS5. This was a last gen console game that got fucking upgraded to current gen.
I am so sad that this game got a remake before Bloodborne got a remaster.
I mean, you never know, it might happen.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But I will say, we are going to get an Until Dawn movie. Again, we talked about this last week. They just finished wrapping. Not like music. They just finished wrapping the production.
That's fucking excellent. I'm extremely excited for this. It's 2025, right?
Yeah, April. It's going to come out in April.
Which is crazy because they just announced it like, earlier this year? January, maybe?
Yeah, January. I think it was like near my birthday, which I was just like, oh, fuck yeah. So.
Our birthday, comrade.
Yes, that's true. Fucking cue the Soviet music. Anyway, it's going to be directed by David F. Sandberg. Now, if you're not familiar out there with David F. Sandberg, he directed the short film Lights Out, which if you've never seen Lights Out, it's a Swedish supernatural horror short film. And it actually got turned into a full feature because it was this good. and you can find it on YouTube. I remember the first time I saw it, it freaked me out. It's about this person that's getting haunted by an entity in their house. And every time they turn the lights out, the figure appears in the shadows.
That's what that's from.
Turn it back on, it's gone. Turn it back out, it's like closer and shit. And it's the one where like she's laying in the. I'm getting chills just talking about it. Look,
yeah, that shit freaks me out.
Yeah, like she clicks the light on in the bed, and that fucker is right there, and that thing clicks the lights out. Ugh, fuck it.
No fucking thank you, no sir, goodbye.
Yeah, and goes from that to Annabelle Creation. Both Shazam and Shazam Fury of the Gods for DC.
Interesting.
Right? And now they are doing Until Dawn.
I love these little niche pockets they're involved with. It's great.
Yeah. So this is how quickly the movie was shot, okay? So they started principal photography on August 5th in Budapest, and they wrapped on October 4th.
Oh, damn. That took no time at all.
Yeah, it was like right at 2 months.
I'm so excited to see this. This is going to be a theater watch for us, hands down.
Oh, absolutely.
I wonder if they will continue on to, like, if it's successful, maybe they will make movies based off the other games that they've made. We mentioned Inpatient before. There was a game that came out right after this called Until Dawn Rush of Blood. And of course, the spiritual successor, The Quarry, which I have yet to play and I very badly need to.
Yeah, we'll cover that one probably sometime in 2025. That's a fucking great game.
Yes, excellent. But I would love to see more video games turned into movies lately. The ones that have been coming out, movies and shows, I think have been just excellent quality.
Yeah, and this one I think will be a huge hit because the game was like, that's the thing about Until Dawn is that this game is one of those rare games that superseded just the gaming industry. People that I knew that had never ever picked up a fucking controller in their life wanted to play this game. And the movie itself that's coming out has been described as an R-rated love letter to the horror genre, and they even have the full ensemble cast. It's the only person coming back from the game is Peter Stormare as Dr. Alan Hill, which perfect. You can't recast that. You can recast everybody else, but like, goddamn it, keep Peter in there.
That's exactly what both of us were saying when we were talking about this. We absolutely love his acting and voice acting involvement with this, and I would hate to see anybody else take that role.
Yeah, same.
If you were interested in playing this game for yourself, you can find it available on the PlayStation Store or via Steam, available for Windows, or buy it at a local retailer to play. I do highly recommend you give it your own playthrough so you can get your own little personalized horror story out of it.
There you go. And if you have played this before, leave us a comment below if you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, or if you are happening across this on a social media post. Let us know how much you liked or disliked this game. I'd be highly surprised if you didn't like it. Let us know what your favorite parts were. If you've shown this game to anybody that has never played a video game, like if you got them into gaming because of this, what got you into this game? And are you excited for the movie that's coming out next year?
I want to know who you killed on accident.
Dude, yeah, tell us that. Who did you kill? Who did you purposely be like, nah, fuck this person? And who was your favorite character that you were like, God damn it, I accidentally killed them and I didn't want to?
Yeah, for sure. We want to hear that shit, please.
For past, present, and future episodes of Cult Macabre, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. You can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave us a rating and leave comments on individual episodes on Spotify. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel, clicking the bell for notifications on future episodes, or leaving a comment down below. Any engagement helps us out. And if you'd like to follow us on any of our social media accounts, you can find all of this in the Linktree link in the show notes below.
So if you would like to join us for more of pop culture's dark side, sign the black book and join the cult.
I'm Richie.
And I'm Lee.
We'll see you next time.